This first portion is going to be very slow. We just want to make sure we get nice and easily over this first band of, liquefaction of the oil itself. Well, we're pulling out a whole mess of aromatics. I guess a lot of the very low temp aromatics, and then definitely some ambient moisture. We're not going to see much activity until we can actually start crewing something on the bottom of that bell. Yep. So we're going to go right up to 50. We want to make sure we're chasing with our boiling flask mantle. So as we increase the temperature, it's basically increasing its, I guess you could call it like thermal momentum. So as like the thermal mass inside of the flask heats up, it's going to overshoot the mantle temp. So we just want to chase it so it's effectively heated, basically. I'm going to keep turning this stir up. Shot up a good 20 micron on the pump side. Yeah, good bit of action now too, as the flask actually comes up to temp. So I think right now it's probably predominantly moisture, maybe secondarily a little bit of those lights, a little bit of those terpenes. And as more collects, we'll definitely be able to see that based on, the oil and water theory, seeing which of the piles will be increasing versus decreasing. I guess right now I'm looking to make sure that you'll see a little bit of, splash right here, but just making sure that no actual oil is making it into this internal column in here where the actual vapor will be traveling, just because I want to minimize the actual functional contamination inside of that guy. I'm looking for activity down here to match, like I was saying, so no bumping up into the main portion of the head. Let it slow ramp through the low hundreds.
We're currently at 110 degrees Celsius inside of our boiling flask. And the interesting thing is we're actually seeing a peak indicative of something called full skull. We can actually clear through this full skull peak right now before we get to our main body, and that's actually one of the ways that we'll be able to tell that we're in main body.
Main bodies I usually like
180.
I don't.
170? Really? That well, I can believe 170. It's just really slow.
That's where I start to hit it.
That's when you're transitioning.
That's where I'm like pushing in like portions of condensing. Just cannabinoid. Condenser. Nice. We're set to 120, so you're getting engaged in this sweep soon. I want to turn on that sweep.
Capacity fraction monitor shows that we're getting a little bit more full skull. And the left-hand side shows nothing, which makes sense.
So yeah, we're in the process of coming through the early stages of our heads fraction, and then we're gonna start the bleed soon. See what kind of effect that has on any sort of volatility and increased activity over here. So you can see our distillation. A lot of activity, good bit of crud we're removing from our inevitable distill. So over here we're definitely getting a lot more lights. These are things that would be traveling through the vapor stream past this recondensation point. So these are going to be like, light terpene slash a bunch of light molecular weight crud. And then in this flask will be the heavier compounds. This is what's condensing in this condenser right here as it preheats to work our way into heads. So what I'm looking for is heating up the condenser and evaporating off all of the heads that come in contact with it. And then as the mains start to make their way into the vapor stream, I want to watch those recondense as a fluid, as a liquid, in the condenser, while whatever heads make it in there are vaporizing, staying in the vapor stream and ending up here on this sensor. Inevitably, once we're into mains, on this sensor, we'll see our cannabinoid peaks, which we'll get into. And then we'll see on the right the latter end of our heads fraction. I guess we'll see the appearance of mains around 170, low 170s, and then we'll probably crack her open, results pending, but crack her open around the high 170s, low 180s. And we're going to chase that up to just under 200 probably. We'll see when tails come through. Luckily we can see them. Just turned her on. It's basically going to assist in the promotion of those, I guess, low to mid-weight, mid-molecular weight molecules, compounds, to get basically pushed through the flask. It's like almost like you're literally lifting them up from below. It's a sweep gas.
Hit overlay on the fraction finder.
Which one?
Right-hand side.
What about reversing that? Having a patient.
So,
we're definitely getting some good evolution of, I guess, the
almost like
middle to end portions of our head.
It's a shoulder
We're getting a little bit fluid able to condense in the condenser. Just a little bit. I mean, right now on the condenser we are 145 degrees Celsius, so we're definitely up there. The only things that are condensing in there are definitely pretty stable. And then we're getting a good bit, because we have the sweep engaged, a good bit of that vapor is continuing down the stream and then ending up on this first cold trap. So we're seeing a good bit of activity there. Definitely, some fool's gold color down there. We're still getting a little bit of pink on our second fraction finder with a lot of the head flat down here. And some of that may just be like retentive on the wall. Yeah, so we're just finishing up on our surge vac. We're running up to the low 170s, and then we're gonna let it cool a little bit. Switch over to our dry scroll pump that's been provided for us, and then run it back through the last ramp of heads into the mains.
That's what it is. You gotta throw shit at it and see what sticks.
Whoa! You just saw some awesome candle noise, man.
Well, that's lovely. We're gonna just go ahead and turn that off, turn this down.
Yeah, you've got like straight up candle noise right now, which also makes sense if you're at 172 and you say you pop at 170.
a torture, baby.
Well, I just turned the.
You might want to wait actually. You want to send Alex, or you can do it. You can work the key.
I say give it a good jiggle first. Yeah.
Well, you just turn that sweep off, so that means the candle noise are now dropping in the main class instead of being blown by. Makes sense.
Yeah, just because it requires literally a decent amount of tampering, it would just be pushed back about
Fraction finder there.
we know.
Oh yeah, we will. In fact, that's actually what we're seeing right now. There's some candle noise in the line because he's cooling down, which means he's not getting a whole lot of vapors right now. Also, I think his boiling flask is the same temperature as his condensing line, so there's nothing doing. Like you're not getting very much condensation. There's not enough actual contact time for that to happen. Now, that being said, you might increase the temperature at your bath eventually.
A channel down the middle and shoulders on the outside, it will tend to run down the middle.
I mean, yeah, you make a camper. Did that. We're about to see candle. It's like we're basically seeing the same thing that we've been seeing this entire time. We saw the candle noise for a little while, but they're just kind of resting on the side of the tube right now.
So what's the wavelength of the count?
460. 460.
So when I see a peak there?
Yeah, you see a peak there, but that's just the candle noise that we're already on through before, but it's sitting on the wall. Like there is some propensity for these things just to kind of sit on the walls when there's nothing flowing through.
Yeah, when there's no.
And that's
We have to wait it out a little bit.
Yeah, we have to wait. It's still because we went and dropped back down in temperature, we're going back up. If you had just kept going on like usually would, you would actually see this stuff. You would actually see Adam tuning the temperature back a little bit. You would see it change.
Bringing main heads, fraction finder to make sure we're not getting main body in there.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, you're getting a little bit of the main body heat right now. Actually, you're getting a lot right now. That's just because
that thing's.
it's just because we're actually like washing out the old cannabinoids now. Finally, we're actually getting a little bit of action. Yeah.
So we're approaching 170. It is very satisfying once you are into the mains, though, because it's literally just pouring liquid gold. Your input's pretty dark. Output is pretty.
Now, without the fraction finder, how would you know?
I mean, one of the best indicators is the hot condenser. Like, when you have it this hot, predominantly the only thing that you're going to be able to recondense into a liquid is going to be cannabinoid. It's awesome for me just because it takes the tension down. Like, I don't need to be sitting here like retentively staring at this condenser, you know. And it's also absolutely immaculate for training. Like it's just, I don't know. It gives me a lot of ease of operation because I can actually see, hopefully, what's going on, in our system at any given point. And then it's also ease of training is just ridiculous comparatively. Instead of being like, okay, you see this striation down here? Like, okay, this is your cannabinoid. Don't look at the other stuff. That's your cannabinoid. It's very straightforward. It takes the guesswork out.
So you're getting actually a little bit more camera coming through, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's... I'm still wondering if that stuff being pushed through from the last time. Because we do have this valve here. So I'm not seeing any color come through.
We just pushed this brown.
So we're done. So we actually might be getting a little bit of camping noise now. I'm seeing a lot of 460. Like, actually, that looks like...
But that's why I'm saying I'm much more down wasting a little bit of
well, I mean, also, look at how much your 410 peak is still. It's super high.
And
So,
I
I
mean,
mean,
look at how much
basically-
this literal amber brown striation down the center is.
Yeah, I mean, you're getting... Well, you are getting chlorophyll, so chlorophyll would be amber brown striation going down your centerpiece. So we're seeing, like, everything going through that line right now, actually. We're seeing fool's gold with potentially the CBD indicator, the fats indicator, and chlorophyll. All is going through this thing right now. No, so what I expect to see is that all that other crap that was, like, basically in the system when we weren't already at 170, like, this is basically all this stuff just compiling up because it was already 170. What I expect to see is this, and this probably to actually go down a bit. I don't know, you just increase the temperature?
Yeah.
So yeah, what we would expect to see hopefully is that we're going to see this go up and these two fall down, but we're not going to see that until after we open this valve. Like once we open this valve, after we clear this out, we're going to see basically the middle peak go down and everything else stay here, and we're going to see this just get a lot of the 460. And that's really what we want to see. Okay, we just want 460 on this, and then everything else stay over here. That's what we want to see.
There it is.
Yep, there it is. Like I said, you can see little striations.
Striations are going to be something along the lines of ripples or waves. So it's going to be a change in density of the fluid. It's going to give you striations. So the significantly more dense cannabinoid is going to ripple through the significantly less dense terps and or heads. I just bumped it to 176 just so we can start actually pushing into
Main.
main.
Because I mean, like you're pretty much in you're points past your heads right now.
We're just about there.
Yeah, we're hoping that this 460 peak goes up, and we're actually hoping to see the other stuff drop down. I'm not sure if we're going to see it drop down, because I bet you are actually co-evaporating all this stuff, and then it's going to all distill until we get some more action. But you see that with 460 peak, it's actually keep going up in relation to the other peaks.
Yeah. So we're definitely looking for, I guess, increase in the 460 peak,
Yep.
increase in resolution of the 460 peak,
Yeah.
and decrease in its shoulders.
Oh, we would hope, especially that 410 peak. And if you notice, that 410 peak is going down, but it's not going down by a lot right now. And I think it's because, look, I mean, like you can literally see we have big old mix.
I don't know if it's going to be able to completely displace that.
That being said, when we open this,
Let's do the positive pressure thing.
you want to try it?
Not like positive, but I'm talking like 300 versus 200. Like,
So what? We're at 200 total. We're at 200 micron right now. You want to try that?
Do a couple hundred.
Yeah.
So let's start it low. Worst comes to worst, you'll have to.
yeah, I mean, we're going to be doing the second pass.
Anyway, yeah, it doesn't
It's
matter.
it's a non-issue, I guess.
Right there. Weak.
It's got 14.
I don't think
Oh,
you're ready.
because I
Oh,
shut off that valve.
It's going through the main line. It's going to go through that mixing right now. So we're hoping to pop that. And what Adam's going to try to do, and what I'm hoping to observe, is that we're going to see that 460 peak. I'm hoping we're going to see like exclusive of the 460 peak going into our main body flask, and everything else going into the right hand flask. Or, you know, going to the cold trap or something that's not your main body flask.
We're pretty much there.
I think you're pretty much there too. It doesn't look like that stuff's being displaced, does it?
No, but that's why we got it.
Yep.
Toward the ball.
So we're gonna.
Let's
You want to
give
try
her
that?
rips. I think so.
So you're going to get that burst.
Yeah, I mean, it should
Then
be.
it's going to.
So if we open this, it's gonna go blowing out
Yeah.
all the oxygen, nitrogen, whatever's in that round bottom flask is gonna go straight up and out to the pump.
It's significantly higher.
Yeah. So if you want to open that, everything that's in there is
We
gonna
can
look
definitely
straight up.
see some cannabinoid down here, by the way. I mean, a good bit.
Yeah, like I said,
I
if
don't
you look at the signal, I mean, like you're seeing most of your 460 peak.
Yeah.
So I think we're good. It's just that we're getting a lot of that 410, and I think it's because of that mixing right there.
Yeah, and I think we're definitely going to alleviate at least some of that, if not most of that.
Yeah. So whenever we're ready, pop it up. So,
All right.
look. Yeah, you get a nice cannabinoid peak on the left, though. We're getting a nice 460 peak, which is what we want to see. And on the right hand, we're not seeing anything change. because it's pretty much just the same stuff that's going through what we already still going through it. You know, pretty clean peak going through it. Actually, you're even seeing less of that 410 peak now. It's starting to go, that 410, that shoulder on the left, I mean, if you notice, it's starting to go more and more into the other peak. But, I mean, basically what's happening is now we're actually seeing less scuff in the line. We're still seeing a significant amount of cannabinoids and the 410, which I'm guessing means that we're probably just clearing out the line in between still. I think that we just got, like, pretty much almost only that 460. I mean, we got a little bit of 410 in there, but that's not enough to matter at this point.
Look at that color. That's
Beautiful color, isn't it?
It's
You are getting more 410 on the left. Like, look at the right hand side, look at the overlay we had. So we had most of the cannabinoids going here, and then now look, we're seeing a drop in that signal and a rise in the 410, which is great. And we're seeing basically no 410 on this side. This is the thing that me and Adam have been talking about for like a month now.
It's so good. Goddamn. Mains and mains.
But once you get your tails, you're going to see that peak. 460, it's going to start moving toward 500. Okay, that's what my prediction is. That's when you're in your tails, and that stuff starts moving more and more to the right.
We'll go a little push, but not much. And we can definitely push a little faster even at this temp.
I mean, yeah, you're not.
Temp. I mean,
You're right here.
Yeah, look at that
I
already.
mean, we'll see what we see on the left-hand side, right? If we start seeing the signal start dropping, we know it's a problem. If we see the signal start increasing with other stuff increasing, we know it's a problem. If we see just the signal increase relative to the 365, we know it's good. We see no change, we also know we're good.
So when do you expect the tails to start coming there?
Oh, long time.
Yeah, we got
now.
about
About another hour and a half, I guess.
mid-90s, low to mid-90s.
Yeah, and we're hopefully just going to be sitting here for the rest of the time. Like, I honestly, the best indicator right now for the fraction finder, like saying that we're doing everything fine, this day is pretty much the same. I mean, maybe you want to see a little bit higher peak, but honestly, like, to tell you you're doing a good main body, this should just be the same throughout. If it's the same throughout, especially during hot condensing, you're happy. This is the reason that this position kind of sucks for hot tech. Come here and I'll show you. You see how much flow we have right there? That's why it sucks. You see how much flow we're getting right here? If you actually look at this, look at how much is pulling right there. That's why we like this hot tech adapter right there. So it puts this inline position. Like the isolation valve makes it so we can do flash transfers without having to deal with a bunch of crap.
This is kind of the essence of hot condensing right here. Is we have all of our mains, our our cannabinoids condensing in the condenser here, up to this point, cooling down, traveling down here, passing our first sensing right here. That's where you can see this cannabinoid peak right around 460. There's just a little shoulder of heads there that we're now condensing out here, and this is affectionately termed the snot, as I have heard, and it's collecting in the secondary flask. This is basically what can't condense in this high temperature area. So this is 174 in the condenser, and it's pushing everything past directly into the second ball, and very much away from our very valuable mains. I think for now, we're basically in stasis, only in the sense where the only things we're going to be altering are the temperatures of the actual condenser. And then we're just going to work down to 150 and then consecutively lower and lower as we progress. Right fraction finder currently is primarily stagnant just because we don't have much blow by, so we don't have much thermal energy over there.
So you're bringing down your condenser temperature?
Yeah, I've been slowly ripping down.
Why do you suppose?
I guess at this point it's just because I want to make sure, well, I guess, let me rephrase. Up until this point, it's because I was wanting to make sure that I wasn't getting blow off into the heads flask. I was seeing a little bit of a cannabinoid coming down in here and like kind of making what was the snot layer straddle it straight on through this little adapter that you guys have provided us. And then I also saw it increase on the right fraction finder at 460 nanometers right there with the overlay. So the 460 peak dropped significantly prior, but now it's reappeared, or I guess before it's reappeared, and now it's just kind of sticking in the adapter. But it reappeared because we ended up pushing a little too fast when we ramped up using the condenser, so the peak popped back up. So we can definitely assure that this is a pretty live demonstration of what's going on in here, because this is the highly non-viscous, high-temperature cannabinoid section that's coming down here, like actively flowing into this flask, right? So we see a good bit of activity there. You can see even just the condensing veins right there.
Just revert to transition to tail. Because look, the peak's shifting. Like, I mean, it's not super hard shifting, and this is first pass, and it's going through a second pass, so maybe it's not a big deal.
But we're definitely doing it.
So, like, I'm telling you, like, because look, here's where our peak is, like, 5-10 nanometers to the left, and now we're, like, 5-10 nanometers to where we were. We're, like, shifting to tails right now. We're in the middle of the transition. I mean, I bet you if I go, it's the peak intensity's rising. So the peak intensity's rising over time with CBD, with the CBD indicator that we use, that just indicates that we're going to tails. And we've been in tails since, for actually, we could have pulled, like, if this was, like, a true run where we were not doing a secondary polish, you could pull, like, 10 minutes ago. And you would have actually had, like, some really, really nice first pass. And it just pushes all that away from the pump. And also make sure that you close that line back because you don't want this to go back into the pump. But no, look, so, like, you can actually see it, like, real obvious
definitely.
now.
Oh, it's bumping out for sure.
But bam, but bam. That was actually a shitload of CBD that just glugged right on it through. Because, I mean, like, think about it. We still had some mains right here, so it just glugged on through. When we get the second pass in tomorrow, it's going to look even better.
Dude, it's gonna be really nice. We are working through our final bouts of tails now. We have about 100, 200 milliliters in the boiling flask right there. Not much. Just about to see the stir. We got a whole bunch of color in here. Which is very denotable or indicative of tails. If you come on down here, you can see its path passing our second fraction finder, which is visible on our second screen. And you can see the actual bands and striations down in the flask here. So you got heads, tails.
And if you look at the fraction finder, what you're going to see here is pre-traditional tails. You're going to see shifted to the right peak, so your cannabinoid indicator is now shifted to the right, which is your tails indicator mostly. You actually see this very big 530 peak because there is some lipids in this crude, and you actually see a chlorophyll peak because since we're at a higher boiling point, we're actually going to see a lot more chlorophyll coming through our system. Right here, like small little bumps on this very large tails background. And this is a very, since we're at the tail ends of tails, you get very large tails background right now. The middle end of main bodies is what we screenshotted that at. I mean, we didn't have a whole lot of blow by, so it was pretty much the same thing that we've been seeing for the last, since the end of heads, actually.
But it was extremely helpful for the
when we're
ramp
tuning up
between heads and
main body. You can see you're shifted 20, 30 nanometers, actually. Zoom in. You can see that you're shifted a good bit now from where you were. You can see that you have a small little bump for your 460. There is some CBD in here, but you get this huge broad background peak, and you actually see a 530 bump underneath this broad background peak, which is your lipids peak. And that's a very indicative of tail.
Nice. It's pretty dusty out.
I'm alright now. I mean, it depends on what you mean. Take my peak.
Second pass distillation of the CBD dominant first pass distillate that we had finished yesterday off our CBD dominant crude from our hemp fields. So we're at 135 C in boiling flask. We're heating up the condenser, so we're at 131 C. Yeah, we're ramping up to, I guess, what little heads we'll have. We're testing out the sweep valve just to see if we're getting any action on it. But so far, obviously, nothing. No activity. We shouldn't be seeing any flow in that condenser until we start seeing mains, just because we will have that condenser heated up pretty hot to avoid any condensation of anything other than cannabinoids. We are at 140 Celsius, so we are actually hotter in the condenser than we are in the boiling flask. So whatever is boiling is volatilizing off in the flask and then going through. There's no chance of making it through this condenser. It is getting recondensed right after it. It's just a little funny more than anything. So, nice. Shows we're going into first start of heads. Oh, first pass we took pretty slow.
6.5?
Yeah, something about that. 6.5 hours from bottom to top. We did not pre-winterize or pre-scrub or really do much of anything to our material.
There was like no
Pre-process.
pre-polish.
There was literally no pre-process whatsoever. It was solely desolventizing. So just to make sure we didn't end up with impurities in our mains collection that we would then need to remediate the second time through, we tried to take it a lot slower and devolatilize fully. But it kind of seems like a little bit, you know? There's a good demonstration as to why condensing is approachable, because you can dial in your temperatures, at least in a rough capacity, during your heads fraction, and then why it is effective, because nothing except our cannabinoid portion can recondense in high temperatures after the head. Oh, it's making its way through. Is it? Yeah, just crested it, yeah. Just had to go around that serious hump in the middle. It's pretty good.
Boop. Now we're just gonna get a bunch of bulk crap real quick. Just because it actually has to flow through and start actually thinning out a little bit. I mean, cause we just got like a reservoir that's like dumping over this sensor. I'm just seeing basically there's some CBD signal right there with some head signal. That's what we're seeing. Actually seeing pretty much the same thing that we saw yesterday, which kind of means that we're getting the same heads out that we got yesterday. Also, you can kind of see we're coiling a little bit, which means there was actually a lot of CBD in this. And also we see a lot of 460 peak, which also means there's a lot of CBD in this.
So if you want to look up in here, you can actually see the straight line of cannabinoid, CBD cannabinoid, rolling down the condenser itself. And then right here at this threshold is past the point where it's no longer being heated to 160 Celsius and the heads can recondense. So we're getting a mixture of heads and mains right here. Condensing, running down, passing down past this sensor, which is giving us the reading of both heads and mains.
If you notice, it looks like the 410-ish peak is actually kind of raising in intensity to the 465, but it's pretty much just the same right now. Like, you have to imagine we still have a lot of the CBD that was in that system that's still coming through.
You can look in here and see the reflux on the tip of the grenade right here.
Yeah.
It is definitely much more clear than any of the yellow that is being presented down there in the heads flask.
Definitely true. Of course, you can see a lot of yellow up there.
100%.
So one thing we can do is, since we were recording the data, we could actually pull it up later. It's like that 410 peak is on the same level as the 460 as opposed to the overlay, which if you come over in the black, like it was below the 460. So, we dropped in, we're at least now getting more of the heady heads as opposed to like the actual cannabinoids. That's nice. But look at that, actually, like you can see it like real good. So like
very defined.
Look, like that 460 peak is like hella, it's not super high, and we're not talking about like huge variations, but we're talking about changes of 4 degrees Celsius. But I'm saying, like, that's the thing. We can see your relative concentration changes in like 4 degrees Celsius in line right now.
Doesn't look like we've added much at all to our actual lower level, which is the cannabinoids.
Yeah.
And we have definitely increased our heads volume significantly. Well, we had initially crested over 165. The mantle ran us to 168, so the overlay is actually looking at closer to 168, like threshold of 166, 167. And then it dropped back down. We're at 164 in system, coming back up to 165. So it just significantly dropped, number one, the flow rate of all of the heads mains mixture we were getting. And then it also significantly dropped the amount of mains that we're getting into our heads. So if you come in here, check out the fraction finder, the peak on the right is going to be our mains peak, and I guess the outside shoulder right there. And the peak all the way to the left is our heads peak. And this is the current. So we have significantly dropped the concentration of mains and significantly increased the ratio of heads. We're just going to keep working through this heads fraction until we really inevitably see that heads line hopefully go down or at least stay similar intensity while the cannabinoid peak drops, and then we'll start pushing into the last part of heads and finish off mains strong. I definitely learned a lot from hops. Future 4200 has been a really good resource, but I think just like individual scientists like Hobbs have been really, really, really good at, pioneering all of this for everyone else in the industry. I think I'm really glad that I was able to reapply a lot of, his and others' research to CBD. I guess it's something even, remotely novel, but it's nothing new, and I'm really glad to use, information from others and then try to come up with something new in conjunction with that. It's a really good tool, and I think it's extremely valuable for pretty much every walk of the short path life. It's really, if you can secondarily refine product that you are already trying to separate on the primary, why not take that as an option? Is really the only thing to pay attention to with hot condensing is making sure that you're not bypassing your condenser. You always want to have it acting as a condenser for your mains. You just don't want anything else to co-condense with it. Really, really good at boosting purity boosting purity, remediating scent. As we're approaching mains and we're pushing more vapor inevitably through the system itself, we're going to have much more, momentum or kinetic energy to push the compounds that'll still be trapped in the vapor phase farther down the line. But currently I just turned up the condenser heat 5 more degrees just to start pushing this sweat band farther down the line into and past our inevitable mains collection point. So the goal of hot condensing will be to have all of our liquid mains fraction come through here and condense as a liquid from the vapor phase while keeping it just high enough energy for all of the impurities and volatiles that would inevitably co-condense with a colder condenser to stay in the vapor phase and push just past where our collection of mains is.
Lots of more heads, lots of more heads. Getting lots of more heads, lots of more heads.
So we're just going to open our mains soon. I want to make sure we don't turn it up too high because I want to be able to cool it functionally once we actually start pushing mains. Look in the flask right here, we still got a good bit of material to work through, which is solid. Yeah, I'm glad we're ramping down. I'm probably just going to push it into mains now.
410's the heads and the 460 the main bodies. We should see a higher increase in the 460, right?
Yeah.
Oh, actually, in that case,
Yeah.
beep. So we should see an increase in the 460 to the 420.
And you should also see that correlate to hopefully more of the mains moving and recondensing down the column itself. I expect to see more cannabinoid recondensing into this hot condenser, which at this point there's only a small little stream of it running down the center.
We're seeing some drippy drips, and I actually just watched the drippy drips. So yeah, you're seeing the 460 increase
Nice.
to the 410, just ever so slightly right now.
It's plateaued.
It's like a little bit now. It used to be like they're on the same level, not just ever so slightly higher. And I can't wait to do this stuff in post processing and figure out what the difference actually is in the ratios.
Yeah, I think we get a cracker soon, at least to just denote. Because we're still getting a good bit of haze and recollection down here. So I just want to crack it and see if this is the 460.
Go ahead, man. Just crack it so slowly. Do you want us to actually increase the pressure there?
I think honestly we're probably going to be fine. 74 should be more than enough to keep.
I mean, you're going to have a leak rate right now, too. That's fine.
That's probably good.
I mean, you're not going to see it on this side. The valve's on the other side of the gauge. Well, bam! Actually, dude, look at that. Look at that. You're getting less 410, more 460 on this side. I mean, that does have significantly less 410. Like, look, you're getting barely any 410 now. It's a little tiny side bump as opposed to being the mass dominant peak. And now
what's going on the right fraction?
I mean, we're probably just looking like the fluids that were flowing through that were built up right here, like just popped through because of the vacuum that just got like open. Also, now you see a lot more of the 410 because most of the cannabinoid, like the 460, which is like the CBD indicator, is going into this flask, which you can see right here. Like right here, that's 460. There's a little bit of 410 in there.
Smidge.
Smidge. A little shoulder.
That's why I turned the temp up to give us some more push and hopefully push those heads past it.
Yeah.
That's really good though.
I mean,
It does.
it'll look nicer once I see a whole flask of it.
I'm getting good flow through the left hand side or not? On the left hand side?
Yeah.
No. I mean, let me rephrase. We're getting better flow. We're getting about 2 or 3 times the drip you're seeing here, because this is just a consistent pusher, and it's blubbing onto this. Oh, no, it's not even dripping at all. It's all just running down this line, and then that actually might be why we lost some signal too, because it's now running down this portion, and then probably making its way down to here. We're pushing.
Yeah, we are pushing. Yeah, no 410. It's almost exclusively 460 now.
Yeah, she's working through her main section. I just continued to turn down the condenser. Now we're set to 125 C. Yeah, so predominantly we're just making sure that our condenser is cooling enough to keep up with the amount of, I guess, vapor phase cannabinoid layer that we want to recondense into the condenser and then consecutively into our mains flask. Looks good though. We're making our way through. We have almost a liter in our mains. Looks good, no striations, good color. We're going to hold it here for a little bit until the condenser cools down just a little bit more. We want to see this condensation line, I guess, push back a little bit, just so that we can make sure we have the allowance needed to push it farther on this end. We're getting a lot of like early recondensation in here, like streaking of the cannabinoids down the column. And then you're seeing that even still here, like at the end right there, you're seeing drops appear and recondense from the vapor line. And you can even see it right here on the clear section as well. So as the condenser cools, it'll move that line back and basically just assure us that we're not missing any recondensing cannabinoid past our collection point.
Anytime you see that uptake at the end, that means you're done. Oh, I mean, this means we're transitioning to tails. Like, that's what that is. On the left-hand side, on that, and on the range I put in there, the uptake at the end is always what means that you're going to tails. If you notice, the 460 peak is now, like, not, I mean, it's still pretty prevalent, but you're seeing, like, a shitload of this 510 right here, and you see a 530, which is the lipids. We're not seeing any chlorophyll, which means that we left it all in the tails flask on the last pass, but, like, 510, that little bump right there, I know it's not a huge bump, but that's because we actually did a pretty good job of making sure we got most of the tails out yesterday. That 510 is basically what you don't want that. I bet once this big glob goes through, you're going to see a big increase in a lot of this stuff.
A lot of the lipids too, I'm sure.
Look, our traditional tails peak is coming in. You see how it's like shifting to the right? Like you see
that's
that
cool.
crazy shit? That's the tails. Right there. That's like what happens when you get like straight ass
The
tails.
super second peak.
Yeah, you see how just
potentially
everything
uber lipids?
shifted to the right? Like
Oh,
you know
yeah.
how I keep saying like you'll see that peak shift to the right? Well, if you're doing like traditional SPD, not hot condensing, like that becomes super obvious in line. Because imagine it, you're not condensing everything and letting it fall through the secondary line or like another line. Like you're not keeping everything in the vapor phase. You're condensing everything. So in like your mains flask, like you just see that shift that you just saw in real time. Like it was crazy how much you saw that
was
shift.
Pretty wild. We ran this whole damn thing to 193.
And you can see the big tails globs that were coming through at the end.
Oh yeah.
So basically that like little indicator up, that's basically like this thing being able to detect that peak shift better than your eye can. Wow, dude, look, no, that's the lipids right there. You see how much lipids, like actual fats, just straight fats are coming in. It's crazy watching that thing happen in real time like that.
Yeah, that's nuts. Still going.
Yeah, it's still going.
Just like hilarious because it's settling into the.
Well, it's because it's just slowly falling through this. We just have like a big glob of tails that ran through at the very end of this thing that then Adam heat gunned basically just to make it so we can go through and look at how this goes through, like how this actually evolved on the fraction finder. And what you basically saw was this was before we heat gunned through the tails, and you just watched everything just march to the right as we went through basically like degraded cannabinoids to lipids to like straight waxes and some of the heavier colorants. Like you can actually see the chunk.
The big guy.
The fraction finder is known for Delta 9. Like that's what our expertise has been, and you know, coming up here and actually working on a hemp farm doing like a CBD distillation is great. It's invaluable. Like we can show people how to make really good clean CBD oil with the fraction finder, with even the added complexities of how do you do hot condensing. Like hot condensing can make it so you can get really pure oil, but there are more variables.
Yeah, and I mean this answered a lot of questions about hot condensing and just standard CBD distillation in general.
Pretty much.
Gave us a lot of ranges
that
we didn't maybe otherwise have the total definition and clarity of. That kind of, I think we've cleared some air.
Yeah.